This is the pinnacle of wilderness construction. A man with only a pair of pants. Living in the wild for 500 days. Making bricks by hand, refining lime, and building a shelter with floor heating. Even inventing hydroponic farming, automatic fishing device. Achieving a life free of worries about food and clothing. This is Lee Sin, who entered the wilderness without buying equipment, in order to survive successfully. He plans to make some handy tools for himself first. He skillfully pulls on vines, quickly obtaining a good container. Then he collects some high-quality clay. Living in the wild requires a water source. Next, he wants to make a clay pot for water. After carefully shaping it bit by bit, it's time for the familiar fire starting by friction. Although he didn't prepare a lighter this time. With the help of Lee Sin's 8-pack abs, even the hardest wood can't withstand the challenge. After successfully starting the fire, he can dry out the clay pot, and then heat it to set its shape. Although he didn't control the shape well, the pot has successfully hardened. Then he sharpens the carbonized wood to collect termite nests, to build a sufficiently sturdy shelter. Lee Sin plans to first make a kiln for firing bricks. He uses clay to form the needed size, supported by branches, creating air vents at the bottom. Using this high-density gray clay to make the kiln walls, to prevent cracking at high temperatures. Then he can stack the clay layer by layer, to achieve sufficient firing space. As the saying goes, live off the mountain near mountains, live off the water near water. Survival in the wild requires eyes that are good at discovery. These wild QQ candies, hidden in dead trees, are first class in both nutritional value and taste. Just need to wrap them in leaves, then cover with a thick layer of soil. Whether as a staple food, or as daily snacks, they are excellent choices. After replenishing himself with positive energy, Lee Sin unexpectedly encounters this stone, only needing to slightly polish the edges. It can cause significant damage to the wood. Unexpectedly, he entered the Stone Age so quickly. The tree suffered 5,000 points of damage. Kuki was knocked down. After successfully obtaining a piece of wood, if it seems too troublesome, then use a war stomp technique. Then Lee Sin polished a small chisel to carve the wood bit by bit, because the stone chisel wasn't long enough. Next he needed to use charcoal to burn the inside, until both ends were burned through. This way the stone axe could be embedded inside. With a little more carving with the chisel, he could get a custom-made handle. As they say, there are always more problems than solutions. Working with his size 35 small feet, he gave this hemp rope a unique flavor. Thus, a shadow war axe descended upon the world, with its existence. Even these 2.5-year-old trees became vulnerable to attack. Even when making precise cuts, he could handle it with ease. Lee Sin split the cut wood down the middle, then carved both ends into forks. The other 2 pieces of wood were burned to create holes. This way they could be assembled together. After additional binding, he obtained a mold for making bricks. To make the molding easier, he needed to evenly sprinkle charcoal ash. With the help of the mold, in a few simple steps, he could get a neat clay brick. The sign of human progress is learning to use tools. Fortunately, Lee Sin evolved quickly. Otherwise, he might be the one lying on the tree now. Due to the limited capacity of the kiln, he needed to put the first batch of clay bricks into the kiln. The firing process usually takes 4 to 5 hours. During this time, Lee Sin molded a large water vat from clay. Soon after, the first kiln of bricks was finished firing. From the crisp sound, he could tell the fired bricks were of very high quality. It seems this guy isn't being kicked out of home for the first time. Although each firing requires a lot of time, the moment of obtaining the finished product is very rewarding. To improve the firing efficiency, Lee Sin set up a small stove on the side, planning to make a bellows to increase the firepower. He wrapped clay around wooden sticks, creating the shape of an air duct. Then, according to aerodynamics principles, he molded the shape of the air hood. Finally, he sealed the air outlet. After installing the pipe, he cut tree bark based on the required airflow, then split the branch down the middle, clamped it and secured it with rope. He gave it a try. Lee Sin nearly blew himself into catching a cold. To generate maximum airflow, the air hood needs to be sealed as tightly as possible. Then he assembled a frame to secure the rotating shaft. Using the principle of bowstring, he created an efficient lever. With the help of the bellows, the flame temperature could reach over 1,000 degrees. Next, Lee Sin collected some tree bark, planning to use it to make quicklime. He just needed to light the bark. After it burned completely, he collected the white ash, filtered out large impurities with a wicker basket, then added some clean water, and stirred it thoroughly. Then kneaded it into shapes resembling braised lion's head meatballs, ready to be placed one by one into the kiln. To speed up the firing process, Lee Sin gathered some wood, piling them together to make charcoal. This charcoal should last him for some time. With the bellows continuously pumping in air, the kiln's temperature could reach around 1,100 degrees. Under the high temperature, the calcium carbonate inside would decompose into calcium oxide. This is the commonly known quicklime. Finally, he used a bone-crushing cotton palm technique to pound it into powder. to obtain cement with good adhesion. Li Xin specifically collected fine river sand from the riverbank. After thoroughly mixing it with lime, he could add water and stir it into cement. After a series of preparations, he could finally begin building the shelter. Li Xin first dug out the outline of the shelter with sticks. Then collected some stones. The alcohol was to prevent the cement from cracking. Next, use stones along the dug trenches to build the foundation of the shelter. With a solid foundation, he can start building the walls with bricks. These simple layers of bricks actually took the blind monk a full week to fire. When the cement is slightly dry, he can level the soil inside. Then continue to raise the walls higher. Considering the problem of having no clothes in winter, he reserved a chimney vent on one side. By now, the previously made bricks have been used up. So he starts making mud bricks and cement again. Fortunately, with his previous experience, this time he quickly produced a large pile of mud bricks. Before he knew it, the walls were high enough to protect his privacy. To compensate for his height disadvantage, the blind monk made a simple scaffold. Using a wooden beam as the door lintel, he can now build the outline of the roof. Since there are no lighting facilities, the blind monk is not in a hurry to build the roof. Instead, he makes the bed first. After building the bed frame with bricks, he fills it with soil. This saves building materials. Then he builds a channel with bricks connected to the fireplace at the other end, and covers the pipe with stones. Finally, he covers it with soil. As the saying goes, 30 acres of land and an ox, wife, children, and a warm Kong bed. Now he has the Kong bed, just missing a wild wife and children. Next, the blind monk begins building the roof. He collects a pile of straight logs. First puts some cement on the wall. Then places the logs one by one. Fortunately, he made the brick walls below neat enough, allowing the logs to be placed parallel to each other. After getting the roof frame, he bends bamboo strips to make molds for the tiles. To ensure the waterproofing of the tiles, he chooses finer clay as raw material. After making each piece, he punctures installation holes at the top before drying them by the fireplace. If fired directly without drying first, it can easily cause the clay mold to crack. Fortunately, the blind monk has plenty of time. The first batch of tiles was successfully fired. Since each piece was hard to come by, he was extremely careful when stacking them. He plans to use banana trees to secure the tiles. This plant is rich in plant fibers. He flattens it bit by bit using a wooden stick, then washes away the excess impurities. After repeating this process 49 times, he obtains these evenly textured plant fibers. Finally, after drying in the shade for a day and night, they can be twisted and wound into hemp rope. The rope made this way is strong and durable. It would last for 10 kun years without any problem, thanks to each tile being made from a mold. The finished effect is very neat. Through the cross-stacking method, while ensuring aesthetic appeal, it also effectively keeps out rainwater. Before reaching halfway, the prepared tiles were already used up. The blind monk urgently began making more. The final capping tiles need special preparation. Using a pre-dug pit, he shapes the tiles into an arc. After air drying for a week, they can be fired in the kiln. Finally, he carefully places them in the center of the roof, thus completing the red roof. Then he evenly spreads clay on the ground and embeds bricks as flooring. The advantage of being in the wild is, all raw materials are free, allowing him to produce these bricks without limitation. Even the open space in front of the door was upgraded, although the cottage looks simple and rustic. If placed in ancient times, it would definitely be a mansion. Next, the blind monk cut down a 2.5-year-old tree, planning to make a door with it. First, he carves latches at both ends of the wood, then burns holes on the sides using charcoal, and nails 2 branches as pivots. After digging holes in the door frame, he can install the door pivots first. To make it easier to drill holes in the wood, the blind monk sharpens a pebble, then attaches it to the top of a stick, and secures it tightly with rope. Then he ground a circular disc from a tile. After making a hole in the center, he placed it on the axle as a counterweight. Finally, he tied both ends with hemp rope. This created a very efficient drilling tool. With the help of the drill, he quickly drilled small holes in these pieces of wood, then fixed them with wooden nails, thus creating the door hinges. While watching the process, I was amazed. After seeing the result, I can only say it's impressive. Next, the blind monk collected some reeds to weave a grass mat. With the blind monk's continuous effort, his life gradually got back on track. To fill his stomach, he dug into an ant nest. After collecting these delicacies, he cooked them using the beggar's chicken method. These things burst with juice, like the caviar of the land. Of course, to live in the wild for a long time, he needed to solve the issue of a stable food source. The blind monk dug a pit in front of the door and laid bricks at the bottom. Then spread a layer of wild cement, gradually building up the sides. The blind monk was making a pond. After all food sources depend on water. Finally, he filled the surrounding area with bricks. Now it has the feel of a luxury villa, to prevent other animals from entering his yard. He collected many stones to build a fence for the yard. The easiest meat to obtain in the wild is definitely fish. The blind monk ground tiles against a stone, creating 4 such discs. Then he collected some tree sap. After heating it with fire, it could be used as adhesive. This way he combined the 4 discs together, creating a wilderness version of a fishing reel, then tied 3 wooden sticks to the side for easier mounting later. As for the fish hook, he used bamboo branches as substitutes. After all preparations were complete, he could fix the reel to a post to save waiting time. The blind monk hangs stones on the stick, so if a fish takes the bait, the reel will move the stones to continuously strike the pottery jar. I must say the blind monk is truly a master of time management. Once the hook is cast, he goes about his business. Everything just waits for the fish to sound the alarm. Meanwhile, he can seamlessly continue filling water into the pond. No sooner said than done. The reel transmitted a crisp knocking sound. Judging from the taut fishing line, the fish should be quite large. Indeed, his first catch was a catfish as thick as an arm. Just as he cast the hook back into the water, the alarm sounded again. After just 1 day, the blind monk had caught half a bucket of fish. He can keep them alive and enjoy them slowly later. But eating only fish isn't enough. He also needs to consider a balanced diet. So the blind monk had a brilliant idea. Using these perforated pottery jars, he planned to develop a soilless cultivation technique. After the pottery jars were fired, he cut sweet potatoes into small pieces. Before planting, the sweet potato pieces needed to be placed in a damp place to sprout. During this time, he had to water them occasionally. After the sweet potato sprouts emerged, they could be transplanted into small pots. When finished, he threaded them on wooden sticks and placed them above the pool touching the water surface. The excrement from the fish could provide nutrients for the plants. Leftover sweet potatoes could feed the small fish. This is absolutely perfect ecological farming. It seems this worry-free life is just around the corner. The idle blind monk takes a stroll through the wild area every day. Today he accidentally discovered a nest of quail eggs. This is like hitting the jackpot. He's had an incredible stroke of luck. Looks like he'll have Orleans-style cuisine from now on. As time passed, the sweet potato sprouts gradually grew to maturity, and the blind monk's hair grew down to his waist. He successfully used soilless cultivation to grow plump sweet potatoes. Today is the blind monk's 500th day in the wilderness. To celebrate persevering for so long, he must prepare a sumptuous dinner. First is to mash the sweet potatoes. Then make sweet potato pizza. Next, catch the largest fish and put it directly on the fire to roast. Having long coveted the fruit trees in front of the door, he uses his exquisite craftsmanship to weave a picking tool. Just by gently pulling the rope, the fruit can be collected. Without further ado, let's get started. Easily captures wild starfruit weighing 500 grams per gin. Cut it into pieces and put it in a bowl. At this time, the roasted fish is also ready. Peel off the skin to reveal the tender fish meat inside. Take the fish meat and put it in a bowl. After adding some water, put it back on the fire to stew. Now the blind monk is no longer simply filling his stomach. From his bulging abs, you can see his life here is quite delicious. It's believed that given time, a whole new race will emerge on this land.